Goldman Sachs' Mark Delaney released a new note that forecasts Tesla's full self-driving technology. While already worth $1 to $3 billion today, it has an upside of $75 billion by 2030. He added that this upside case for FSD does not even yet include the potential for Tesla licensing of Dojo supercomputer or selling of FSD to other auto manufacturers. Today, we're going to dive deeper into this new research by Goldman, and we've got Hans Nelson joining us to help us parse through all this detail. Thank you so much, Hans. Really, really love it that you're here with me.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So this is one of our favorite things we love to do is dive deep into these analyst notes. We tear it apart. I know that you've done your own forecast as well for full self-driving. So let's compare what you're expecting to what these guys are expecting. So let's start with the note. This Haley Ike just liked her note initially. Says Goldman Sachs, Mark Delaney said, Tesla's full self-driving is already worth $1 to $3 billion in sales, upside of $75 billion by 2030. He goes on to point out that Tesla charges an upfront fee of $12,000 for FSD software or $199 a subscription. But that these scenarios suggest an upside case of FSD could account for tens of billions of revenue per year. We're going to look at exactly what he said and more if we consider licensing of Dojo or selling FSD to other manufacturers. So this is the article that was written about it. And the note that he wrote was called Contextualizing Tesla's AI and FSD Opportunities. So right off the bat, this is another analyst finally talking about Tesla as an AI company and FSD. In the last third quarter earnings report, we had 3 questions by 3 different analysts asking about full self-driving. The message is clear. I think they're really understanding now, institutional investors, that Tesla's not just a car company, and they're starting to model it out. And that's what we're looking at today. So they updated their outlook on this addressable market for software products. So this is all built into the software products bucket. So that tied to the model as best they could. So they basically said that the market opportunity for software like FSD could be 10 billion to 75 billion. That's a huge range in revenue by 2030, depending, I guess, from the fleet of vehicles. So that's a stunning amount, given that Tesla's total revenue for 2022 was 81 billion. So within 7 years, just the software license alone could be fairly close to what we're making now. And then they did model out. Before I go to the details, did you want to give any comment on this?
One of the things that I would notice there is that they keep using the term FSD, and they have not said anything about robotaxis in this note. And so what they're talking about is just the revenue from full self-driving as it stands today, as that product grows over time. And yeah, I think so. I have put together a model here as well that is trying to evaluate, what is the value of FSD without ever reaching a robotaxi level of functionality. And the rough number that I come up with is about $50 billion in 2030, but that's assuming that we only have 10 million deliveries of vehicles in 2030, which I believe is conservative. The purpose of the model was to be more palatable to a Wall Street type person. So my model is kind of designed to fit within the conservative assumptions that someone like Goldman Sachs would be making. And so that $50 billion number that I came with doesn't surprise me that actually is kind of right in the middle of the range that they are also expecting.
That's a very good point, Hans, that this is just FSD being sold at $12,000 one time or $200 per month to existing Tesla owners. And that's why a lot of their forecast is based on how many cars do you expect that Tesla will sell. And then they did add in a little bit of concept of, they did not add in, I'm sorry, if they can sell the licensed FSD to other auto manufacturers, which is so obvious that that's going to happen as well. Does not include robotaxi. So this is great. I'm glad that they did this. This is something you can actually hang your hat on. They can, because we're selling it today. FSD is being sold today. So let's dive a little deeper into what they said. So they modeled low, mid, and high 2030 revenue and earnings per share projections for all the business units. Excluding the vehicles, their model shows that this could be worth 115 to 225 billion in 2030. So that's, again, we are at 85 billion, 82 billion right now for just the cars. So this is other than the cars. we're already going to be, double, triple where we're at today. With software, the bulk of which would be FSD, worth the 10 to 75 billion. And other revenues, such as Optimus bots, supercharger coming at 75, 100 billion. I tell you right now that is way too low. By 2030, Optimus is just 75 to 100 billion. And energy at 30 billion to 50 billion. Okay, so let's look at their low, mid, and high. And this is vehicle revenue, software revenue, which includes the FSD, energy revenue, and then services. What do you get from out of this?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure on the interpretation of whether there is or is not selling of, licensing of FSD, if that's included in the 75 billion number. That was one of the things that I just couldn't quite tell from
It's not. It's not. I'll
Okay,
point it out and then.
Yeah. So that was the one question I had. If it's not, I think that's probably a pretty solid. I think that means that they're probably giving credit to Tesla for actually being able to deliver more than, and I think we could probably tell that from the 400 billion number if we knew what ASPs were on there. I mean, 40,000 ASP average would do 10 million vehicles. I think that would be 40 or 400 billion dollars. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good rough conservative estimate on the high side. I feel like it's good to have, someone who is respected like Goldman Sachs to put out numbers like this and really actually have a model that includes these types of services in it. The fact that Optimus even is assigned value from the street officially is kind of a big deal as well.
That's a good point. That's right. It's like finally we had somebody say that there could also be Optimus revenue. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so obvious. The products are already available. You can already see it moving, and you're just waiting. So, we're really at the cusp of hearing more and more investors saying that Tesla's not just a car company; it's an AI company, it's an FSD company, and it's a bot company. I like that point. There's also, so let's continue on with some of the notes here. This is just the same as what I've already said now, so I'll keep skipping past this. So their actual sentence was, we believe that Tesla's software-related revenue could be tens of billions of dollars per year by 2030, mostly from FSD. These scenarios suggested in an upside case, FSD could account for tens of billions of revenue per year, more if we consider licensing of Dojo or selling FSD to other OEMs. So
this is an area where, I agree strongly with Omar on the point that he believes that pretty much every major OEM will end up licensing FSD from Tesla. And I don't know if it will be everyone, but I think there will be large contracts with OEMs that do. And because it's such an easy give me for Tesla to just license out and say, like, they'll provide like a tier one, it'll be the computer, it'll be all the cameras, and then it will be the software license. Because that's one of the things that we've also talked about is how difficult it is for OEMs to manage the software in the car. If they have the steer-by-wire portion of the, like, a known stable interface of the computer controls to the outputs of the vehicle, that they say, hey, OEM, this is what you're required to provide to the FSD system. And then they have all the sensors in the computer, then that's really all that's necessary to drive the vehicle. And Tesla can manage all of the updates to that portion of the system over the air, because they're not having to deal with any of the, like, if they don't have to interface with any of the OEM parts besides those, I think Tesla can probably manage that portion of the over-the-air updates for the software as well. And so that becomes a very attractive option for an OEM who is not looking at being able to provide that to their customers. And I mean, they'll pay, like, Tesla will cut them a fair deal. Tesla will make a lot of money on that, but the OEM will also actually make more money than they would otherwise. And so it'll be a win-win, and also be a win for the customer.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com. Many legacy automakers will have to partner with Tesla. Even if it's not full self-driving or robo-taxi, they need to do it for ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance Service, or whatever they call it, system.
Yep.
Like right now, right? There's a NHTSA requirement that all cars must have the braking system, right?
Yeah, automatic emergency braking.
AEB, automatic emergency braking. And that's if a car in front of you stops quickly, the car needs to be able to stop. Okay, so many car companies have this, but what they don't have is the cross traffic. And Tesla is the only one that has shown that they actually have this now. So when the cross traffic, you have to be able to stop immediately. When that starts being rolled out, they start seeing it, then it's just going to say, hey, all of you need to do this. And by the way, not every legacy automaker has the ability to do just even the regular AED. So when that becomes they need to license that from somebody. Tesla's the most logical partner. They'll get some of that, if not all. Here's the part about the note that I think is yet another thing that's good to kind of parse out. Is the recognition that Tesla's going to become a software company. See, it says here, Tesla operates an automotive and energy division, but selling or licensing its FSD software will make it a software company as well if it is already not considered one on developments of FSD. Again, just another thing to realize that Tesla's not a car company, it's a software company. The sales could account, the auto sales could account for 525 to 600 billion of revenue. We believe services could be at greater than 150 billion as Tesla's installed base grows, and from opening its charging network and insurance. So energy, software, and robotics, they kind of mentioned that as well, would make up the balance, provide an upside. So
yeah, I'm just impressed overall with the breadth of what's included in the research note, that they really are looking at all the different major portions of Tesla's business, unlike most other companies that are just saying, hey, it's an auto company. So yeah, I think that that's really good to see. And like we said, to see that coming out of Goldman Sachs, which is a very well-respected research group. And, their analysts are very good. So,
well, just like any analyst, though, while they do this and they spit out these reports and we're happy, their price target today is still $235. So they're still a neutral. And they couch this note with a lot of, well, it depends if they sell the cars. It has to be like 20 million, that kind of numbers. It has to, all these things have to happen. They can't have more price cuts. So they couch it.
But I mean, there's a lot of room in the story left to play out. And so that the fact that they're actually looking at each different segment while, these are long-term predictions. And so if you're looking out long enough in the future, and I guess that's the other part of this is that they're really looking potentially at 2030, and so that's one of the reasons why they are actually looking at all these different areas of the business, is because they're looking at a time horizon that's longer than this quarter, next quarter, maybe next year. One of the other factors that really supports the idea of Tesla licensing FSD to other OEMs is I think it really has a large impact on the regulatory hurdles that Tesla will face for FSD. If they're supplying FSD hardware and software to a variety of OEMs, then that actually significantly improves the clout that you have both in Washington, but whatever regulatory agencies, whether they're national, whether they're local. If you've got not just one automaker, but if you've got numerous automakers who are all using one unified system, then that really helps you actually be able to satisfy all the different interests and invested people in a way that works for everybody and gets that deal done.
Love it, Hans. Thank you. You always make fantastic points. You should check out his YouTube channel at Hans C. Nelson. Thanks, Hans.